Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome to our 11th day of our Vraja-mandala Parikrama 2023. And we have a wonderful day today. We're getting right out into the country, into the wilderness of Vrindavan today. It's very large forests and so on. So we have Khelanvana first, and then we have Viharavana, we have Ram Ghat, we have Cira-ghata, and we have what else? Vatsavan and Garuda-Govinda on the way back, the last place. So generally when we're on the buses, this is an extremely long day, but we'll have the same amount of time for our guitar. So we'll wander through and see how we go. But we'll have our kirtan first.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Viyatmane Shri Shri Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prasharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Vatsavana Sadarine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shri Shri Bhakti Pragyana Keshaviti Namine Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura-bhakta-vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura-bhakta-vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Guru Deva, 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 Jaya Guru Deva. Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Haribo 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 Haribo
Munindra Vrindavanite Triloka Shoka Harini Prashana Vatsavana Vikunja Bhuvilasi Rajendra Bhanu Nandini Rajendra Sura Sangate Radha Vishya Siyama Vipata Darsha Varshanam Ashoka Vriksha Vallari Vitana Manda Pasite Pravara Vala Bhagava Prabhanuranjito Hare Karabhaya Spurat Hare Prabhuta Sampradalaya Yatagavishya Shiyama Vipaka Chaksha Bhajanam Ananda Mangala Prasanga Mangala Dhruvam Saribramam Sasambramam Nijanta Padmate Nirantaram Vashikrita Pratiti Nandanandane Madata Vishya Siyamam Vipata Chaksha Bhajanam Samanam Paka Pratita Gaura Vigrahe Mukha Prabhapadasya Tisaratendu Vichitra Chitra Sancharat Chakora Sarvalochane Gadata Vishya Siyamam Vipata Chaksha Bhajanam Yogane Pramoda Manamandite Priyanuraga Rangite Kalavilasa Pandite Ananya Danya Kunjarantya Kamakeri Komite Kanata Vishya Siyamam Vipata Chaksha Bhajanam Asheshahava Bhavagira Hira Arabhusite Prabhuta Sata Kumbara Vakumbitum Vajusana Shaskaram Purna Sokya Sagara Radha Vishya Siyama Vipata Chaksha Bhajanam Vallari Karanga Ranga Dolate Latara Lasya Lolani Lalochana Velomane Lalalulam Niranmanabhya Murga Morashvite Nadata Vishya Siyamam Vipata Chaksha Bhajanam Varnamalitanshita Trireka Tambutam Tade Trisutra Mandali Guna Viratna Dipti Dirite Kalola Nila Kuntala Prasuna Gucha Guntite Radha Vishya Siyama Vipata Chaksha Bhajanam Khelanvana Pushpane Kalanune Prashastarana Kalapananya Mandale
Indra-Danya-Dandika-Varoha-Sobha-Gorake Pranakarisya-Shilama Vilola Hemavallari Vidam Vichara Chandrame Kadakarisya Sriyama Vimakatashanam Koti Vishnu Lokanama Padmachachite Vimarija Puramana Virinshana Apara Siddhi Viddhi Sarvadangulinate Naraya Isya Sriyama Vipakatashavajana Maheshwari Triyeshwari Triveshwari Maheshwari Triveda Bharatishwari Pramana Saraswati Rameshwari, Rameshwari, Pramodakhananeshwari, Rajeshwari, Rajadite, Chiradite, Namostute, Iti Mama Nutam Stava, Nishanyadhanagandhini, Sarvati Samhidanam, Yudhate Kakshabhajanam, Tadesadaiva Sanchita Trirupa Kamanashanam Bhavendaram Bhavendra Sundhu Mandala Parikrama Tadakarisya Siyamam Kripataka Sabrajanam Tadakarisya Siyamam Kripataka Sabrajanam Suchavandalam Sukarnaratnakundalam Suchachitanga Chandanam Namami Nandanandanam Sudirga Netra Pankajam Shikishikangamurganam Ananda Koti Mohanam Namami Nandanandanam Nasidadamoktikam Swachandaram Tapantikam Navambudam Yachitanam Namami Nandanandanam Jarena Venuranjitam Satina Indradambikam Gurkula Pita Sovanam Namami Nandanandanam Tribanga Sundaram Tatyaduti Sudakaram Amulya Ratna Bhushanam Namami Nandanandanam Sudanda Anga Saramam Puro Virasi Kaustubam Spuratri Vatsalam Namami Nandanandanam Vrindavana Sunadaram Vilasamudavasasam Surendra Garbhamoshanam Namami Nandanandanam Rajangana Sunayakam Sada Sudha Pradayakam Jaganmana Pralobanam Namami Nandanandanam Kadetya Shraddhaya Nita Kadet Bhavam Hindustanam Bhavam Tadam Diyutmanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Namami Nandanandanam Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Jai Shishi Guru Guranga Ganhavika Giridhari, Radha Madan Mohan Ju Ki Jai. Jai Shishi Radha Govinda Dev Ki Jai, Radha Gopinath Ju Ki Jai, Nityananda Rai Ki Jai, Sachinandana Gaura Hari Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarazara Shishimad, Shila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarazara Shishimad, Shila Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarazara Shishimad, Shila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Jagat Guru Nitya Lila Pravishta Om, Asto Tarazara Shishimad, Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Paramahamsa Mahabhagavat Shila Gaura Kishodas Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Saptam Goswami Shila Sachidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Shila Baladevi Dibhushan Gaudi Varantacharya Ki Jai. Shila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Narottam Srinivas Shyamananda Prabhu Treya Ki Jai. Shila Krishnas Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Shri Bhata Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhata Dasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu's Ki Jai. Jai Swarup Damodar Rai Ramananda Gauda Parsada Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Holsi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Ki Jai. Shishi Radha Krishna Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Ganga Jamuna Ki Jai, Brihat Mridanga Ki Jai, Sankirtan Yagya Ki Jai, Nam Bhajan Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Sudarshan Chakra Ki Jai, Shingadev Bhagavan Ki Jai, Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai, Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai, Jamuna Punamasi Devi Yogamaya Maharani Ki Jai, Antadweep, Mayapur, Simantadweep, Gautandweep, Madhyadeep, Koladweep, Richajit, Danadweep, Motandweep, Rudradweep, Apaka-Navadweep, Dham Ki Jai. Bandiravan, Badravan, Bailvan, Lohavan, Mahavan, Madhuvan, Talvan, Kamudvan, Bahulavan, Vrindavan, Kadiavan, Kamyavan, Vraja-mandala Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Om Agina Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Yam Prabhajantamana Petyam Apeti Krityam Dvaipaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putre Titam Mayatayo Tarabo Vinidustam Sarvabhutam Hridim Munimanatoshmi Anapita Chirim Chirat Kuranavartino Kalo Samadapaitam Unnata Ujvala Rasam Swabhakti Shriyam Hari Purata Sundarata Dikatamba Sadipita Sadahridare Kandare Swaratu Vasachinandanaha Bhaktya Vina Aparada Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadi Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanada Vindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karana Bharadram Tato Mamanasti Katyana Kapi Tavaivasmi Najivami Tvaivina Iti Vignaya Radhe Tvam Naivam Charantikam. And first of all, offering millions and millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And the same again, millions and millions of times unto the lotus feet of our beloved Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Asto Tadasara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And unto the lotus feet of all our illustrious Rupanuga Guru Vargya and all the Vaishnava and Vaishnavi devotees of the Lord, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Avanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhuve vicha patitanam pavanibhyo Vaishnave namo namaha. So, as I said previously, we've got a very lengthy travel today. And I'll just demonstrate on the map here where we're going. So we're still camping in Vrindavan Dham, besides the Jamuna here, where you can see I'm pointing. So this is Vrindavan. So we're going to come out to Chatikara. Perhaps many of you are aware of the roundabout here, Chatikara. This goes to Agra, and this way goes to Delhi. So we come out to Chatikara, and then we go right along the road to Chata, and then we're going to come inside to Shirga. This is Shirga. And right close by Shirga is Khelanvana. And that'll be one of our first stops, will be Khelanvana. And after there, we'll travel back down south again, and we'll come to Viharavana. And then, where my pointer is now, Viharavana. And then we'll come to Shirga. This place here, Cira-ghata. Cira-ghata. This is where the gopis had their clothes stolen. And then Ram Ghat is just before Cira-ghata. So all in this area we're going to be. And then we're going to come a little bit further south, and we'll come to Vatsavan. So basically today we're running beside the Jamuna. Jamuna's flowing north the way I'm pointing, and we're all in this area here. This is the area. On the other side of the Jamuna is Bhadravan and Bandiravan. So those are places for another day, and Bilvavan. But today we're on this side of the Jamuna, on the western side of the Jamuna, and we're at the northernmost extremity, practically, of Braj this way. There's Sheshai over here, and Koshi is here, and then we come out of the Vraj-mandala. So we're in this center area today. So this is where we're going to be basically traveling from Vrindavan up to this area. So the first place we come to is Khelanvana. Khelanvana is described as a beautiful forest. Kalan gets its name from Kali, which means playful. So many playful pastimes happened here between the suckers when they were out cow grazing. And also often the Sakis would come here and different sorts of games would be played, sometimes with the Sakis. And there was a time here, because the whole mood here is like playful. This Khelanvana is extraordinarily beautiful. This area of Braj that I've just described is very much untouched, really. It's still like it was almost 5,000 years ago, except most of the trees, of course, the large trees have disappeared, and these thorny trees have taken their place. But nevertheless, there are still many Kadamba trees there, and tamal trees are also there amongst them. So it's a very beautiful and full of bird life. So many birds are there on the banks of the Jamuna. So it's a very pleasing atmosphere for the consciousness to remember Radha and Krishna's playful pastimes, particularly the pastimes with the Sakas. But there was a time here when Krishna, he was remembering how much pain Sri Radhika had suffered due to being called an unchaste lady, because she had been suspected of having relationship with Krishna, because each day she was cooking in Nanda Bhavan for Krishna because of the boon she'd received from Durvasa. And Yashoda would beg Jyotila to allow her to come and gives her all sorts of gifts and so on. Punamasi would demand to Jyotila that your daughter-in-law must come, otherwise your cows will start to die for sure, and probably your son Abhimanyu may have some difficulties. So Jyotila was allowing that. But still there was gossip, mostly coming from Jyotila and Kotila, about the unchaste way of Sri Radhika, that she was unchaste. So Krishna, he manifested this amazing pastime at this place in Khelanvana of having a high fever right out in the pasturing grounds. Mother Yashoda came running, or the elderly gopis, they came, and they tried so many methods to bring his fever down. They couldn't bring his fever down. And eventually Punamasi arrived, and she examined Krishna and said, the only way that his fever will come down is if this pot, which is full of holes, is taken to the Jamuna by the most chaste lady and brought back here without spilling a drop. The abhishek of this water is going to cure Krishna's fever. So they were all rather surprised with that idea, because the pot was like a sieve full of holes. And then, so Mother Yashoda immediately looked towards Jatila and Kotila, because they were always proclaiming themselves the most chaste ladies of Braj. So she asked Jyotila, you take the pot first, you please go and fill it up and come back without spilling a drop, and then you'll save the life of our dear Lala, Krishna. So Jyotila goes, and as soon as she picks up the pot, all the water rushes out, every single drop, not even saving a single drop in the pot. And then Jyotila, she tries it a couple of times with great concentration. She can't do it. So what does Jyotila do? She leaves the pot there and runs away because she's sure that she will be, condemned by everybody else as being an unchaste lady. But then her daughter Kotila, she's also pressured by Mother Yashoda. Now, Kotila, you go. Jyotila hasn't returned, so perhaps she failed. Kotila, you go. We understand you're very... So she takes another pot, the same. And the same thing happens to Kotila, her daughter. So then Punamasi, she suggests, why doesn't Radhika do it? And Radhika says, no, I'm absolutely not going to do this at all. And they all begin to beg Radhika. Mother Yashoda is begging Radhika to please do. Radhika is saying, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to. And finally she consents. And she takes the pot and she goes very carefully to the Jamuna and she fills it up, and she's just, her prem, it's described, is blocking all the holes. Her prem for Krishna completely seals the pot, and she brings it back without dropping a single drop of water. and everyone is so happy for that. And then Purnamasi, she performs that Abhishek, and she chants many mantras. And Krishna, his fever just disperses immediately, just completely gone. And afterwards, then there's only talk in Braj about how chaste is Radhika and how unchaste is Jotila and Kotila. So in both instances, Krishna managed to perform with one activity all the glorification of his dear Radhika that he wanted to um, establish in Braj. And then, of course, Radhika becomes much freer to actually come to Krishna. So this pastime takes place, or it's described here anyway. This pastime, my Gurudev describes here. It's a playful pastime, actually. So this Khelanvana is where we are. And then we move a little further down and we come to Viharavana. And again, Viharavana is an intoxicatingly beautiful forest with even more birds than Khelanvana. The birds in Vrindavan are extraordinary. They are so many varieties of birds. I lived in one lonely place for about 6 months and counted all the numbers of the birds, and there was like 25 varieties of birds would come every day to this particular kund. So there's all types of birds and beautiful sounds that they make. And and parrots, of course. The Sukansari parrots are always there. So, and the, what do you call it? The saras birds, the large saras birds, they're sort of gray bodied and red necked, and they always stay together. Mother Yashoda used to call Krishna and Balaram the saras twins because they were always together. And in the bird life, if one of the partners dies, then the other leaves a few days later. They never live alone. You never see a saras bird alone. They're always together. And when you see them in the fields, one is pecking at the grains and the other's pecking at the grains. When one stops, the other stops. And they just completely mirror each other. And they have a beautiful haunting, haunting like ancient sound that they make. So these very large stalks are everywhere also. So Virhavan is an exceptional, beautiful place also. And it's the place where the Rasastali was performed in Virhavan. And there's beautiful Kadamba trees there. There's not so many in the whole of Braj now, Kadamba trees. Even 30 or 40 years ago, there were many large Kadamba trees. There's the ancient Kadamba tree we always see at Kaliyahrada, when we see there in Vrindavan, where Garuda put that drop of nectar. So we see that Kadamba tree still survived because of the nectar. But generally, we don't see so many Kadamba trees anymore. They are living in separation from Krishna's pastime. It's part of the backdrop of absolute beauty in Braj. So it's described the Rasalila was here, and the gopis defeated Krishna here in wrestling matches also. And of course, Radhika, she just has to glance at Krishna and immediately he's defeated. This takes place also in Bandirban. And in this forest in particular, there's the pastime where Krishna is captured by thousands of gopis. Krishna is actually coming alone. He's left the cowherd boys and he's coming alone to hopefully meet with Radhika. And Krishna is always having the toll taxes and taxing the gopis for their butter and curds, etc. But this time, like at Dan Nirvatan Kund in Govardhan, it's the same pastime. Dan Nirvatan Kund comes after the Dan Keli pastimes, where the toll was performed in Govardhan. Then the next day, the gopis, they get their retribution from Krishna. So here they do the same thing. They capture Krishna, they tie his seeker to a tree, they put a clay pot on his head, and Lalita, she throws a rock at it, and all the yogurt comes all over Krishna, and they're all laughing and very happy. And Krishna's happy when the gopis are happy. And when he's defeated by love, Krishna is so happy. Of course, he's always trying to defeat the gopis, but he can't. The gopis they always outsmart him every single time. So this pastime takes place here at Virhavan. This is a very beautiful pastime. So we have these two forests quite close together. This forest of Viharavana is surrounded by a wall. It's a very large area. It's probably 2 acres, 2.5 acres of beautiful trees and so on that are protected from the buffaloes and the general people that are walking around so much. So it's been protected to some degree. And there's a small little temple in there um, describing this pastime about Krishna's Sika being tied to a tree. And just beautiful creepers and so on are there. So this is Viharavana, we come. And we remember in both of these places, Khelanvana and Viharavana, the sweet, playful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And then we come to Tapovan. And Tapovan is that place that we're going to hear in connection with Cira-ghata, which is the place where the gopis had their clothes off, the young gopis. So I'll tell this pastime now that because Viharavana is very, very close to Tapovan, and it's described that the sadhana siddha gopis, they came to this Tapovan to perform their austerities, to have Krishna as their beloved, or to have Krishna as their husband. So the very young gopis, the Kumaris, they were only 3 or 4 years old. They wanted Krishna as their husband. And they took a vow in the month of Katyani, which is straight after Kartik, straight after this month, in the month of December. We finish in November. So in the month of December, in a very cold month here in Braj, these young gopis, 3, 4, 5-year-old gopis, they would be with one of their elder sisters, and they would go every single day. They would come to this place at Tapovan, which is very close by Cira-ghata. And they made out of sand a beautiful deity of Katyayani, and they would worship that deity of Katyayani. They would bring sweets and sandesh and flowers and all kinds of cooked preparations from their homes, and they would very carefully worship Katyayani. And they were all individually, unknown to each other, praying that Krishna will become my husband. They were only 3 or 4 years old, but they had fallen in love with Krishna, and they just knew spontaneously, internally, we only want Krishna as our husband. So they didn't think beyond that. They're young girls, very young girls. So they were forming this brat very early in the morning. We used to live in Durvasa Rishi Ashram, and we would see the young girls doing the same brat there. They would come in the very early morning with no shoes, and it would be freezing, and they would offer their lamps to the Thakurji there, and then carry their little tiffins across to the Jamuna to get water from there and perform their puja. So many young girls even do this today. But in this time, these young Kumaris, they were performing their puja to Katyayani Devi. This description of the gopis' clothes being stolen, it falls in a very beautiful place within the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. If you're familiar with the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, the first 10 chapters of the Bhagavatam, or the first, let's say, 20 chapters, are basically describing Krishna's Balya Lila and his Pauganda Lila, his early childhood pastimes, in about the first 7 or 8 chapters, and then it goes into the Pauganda Lila, and then when he becomes 6 or 7 years old, and then it goes into the Kishore Lila. So in chapter 20, it's very interesting the way it's structured. It's called the rainy season. Chapter 20 is the rainy season, and it completely stops describing all of the direct pastimes and starts describing the backdrop of the beauty of Vrindavan. And it's as if Sukadev Goswami is clearing the ground for the next set of incredible pastimes that are going to be described. It's like a curtain if you were having a drama. So at the 20th chapter, it's as if it stops with a curtain of the rainy season. And then the first chapter after the rainy season is the Venugit, which is a very esoteric chapter. Now we're talking about the gopis praying for Krishna. So it's built, it hasn't been speaking about any of those topics previously. So the 21st chapter is the first time Shukadev begins to speak directly about the love that the gopis have for Krishna. And then straight after this Venugit comes this chapter about the gopis having their garments, their clothes taken by Krishna. And then we go through for another 6 or 7 chapters, and then we come to the Rasa Panchadya chapters. So this is the way the Bhagavatam is structured. It's very beautiful to appreciate where this chapter about the gopis having their clothes stolen falls. It falls in the much amongst the intimate pastimes that Shukadev is going to describe about the gopis. So the young gopis, very young, they've performed their worship and their puja of Katyani, and now they're taking their ritualistic cold bath. Every day they take their bath in the Jamuna, and they come to this place of Cira-ghata, which is about a kilometer down from Tapovan. And they take off all their clothes, then they go into the ice cold or much colder Jamuna and take their bath naked. So Krishna, he's hearing their prayers. Of course, Krishna is omniscient. He knows their prayers. I've described before, Krishna is Mugdata and he's Sarvagya. He knows nothing and he knows everything simultaneously. We have to appreciate that achintya nature of Krishna's personality. So he's come to this place and he's aware that the young gopis, very young gopis, they're bathing naked. So he picks up all their clothes. Krishna, he's with about 9 or 10 young boys of about 4 and 5 years old, very young boys. Krishna himself, he's about 7 years old. And he comes and he picks up all the gopis' cloths, puts them on his shoulder, and climbs this kadamba tree. This kadamba tree is still there today. We go there and we circumambulate it in Cira-ghata. And from this place, Cira-ghata, we have beautiful darshan of the Jamuna. And every time we come to this place with our parikrama party, we always traditionally take bath. The whole parikrama take bath in Jamuna because it's very nice, huge sandy banks there. And previously, anyway, it was clean. So the gopis are bathing there. And then Krishna, he's with his very young friends. They start laughing in the tree. And suddenly the gopis realize that Krishna is here. And they're horrified that he should come and catch them naked in the Jamuna. And they're looking towards their clothes. Immediately they want to run out and grab their clothes, but they see that their clothes have gone. And Krishna is holding their clothes. And they become mortified. And then Krishna is telling them, oh, you have performed such nice puja and seva to Katyani, and I know your desire is, I know exactly what your desires are. So you please come and take back your clothes. But you can only come one at a time. You can't come in a group. You have to come one at a time. And the gopis, the little Kumaris, they're in the waters, and they start joking with Krishna, saying, you can't do this to us. The little girls, they're in a state of shyness and embarrassment. They've been caught like this. And Krishna says, actually, you've committed an offense. You shouldn't be bathing naked. This is an offense to Katyani. Now, to overcome that offense, you have to come and you have to collect your clothes, and then you will be forgiven for that offense. But the gopis are saying, oh, don't be so unkind. We know you're the son of a very kind king, Nanda Baba, and he would never think to do something like this to young girls. No, you please just give us back our clothes. Don't play this game like this. And if you don't, we'll go to the king of Kamsa. We'll go to Mathura, to the king. And Krishna is just laughing and laughing and joking. And the little girls, they're actually in their hearts completely in bliss that Krishna has come and giving them so much attention like this. They're very, very happy, actually. But it's a very compromising position for them. So eventually, because they're getting colder and colder and colder in the water, they're submerged up to their necks in the water, and they're getting colder and colder, and all cold bumps are coming on their bodies. And they're begging Krishna just to please put their clothes down so they can come out. And Krishna, he won't, said, no, you have to come out. So then very, very shyly, they come out one at a time, and they have their hair out, and they're trying to cover their bodies with their hair and their hands. And Krishna's saying, no, you must put your hair back, and you must put your hands above your head, and you must come and you must offer obeisances, and then I will give you your clothes back. And then the young gopis there, they start to chuckle. They're laughing then, because it's like just gone out of their control completely. They have no choice here. So these young girls, they end up following exactly what Krishna says. They put their hands on their heads, they put their hair back, and they've come to Krishna completely naked to collect their clothes. And Krishna, very mercifully, he knows exactly which set of clothes goes to which particular gopi. I mean, there are hundreds of these young girls, and he knows every single dress of each young gopi, each young girl, and he gives them their exact dress. And the gopis are thrilled, because when they get their dress back, it's of course got the fragrance of Krishna's hands all over their dresses, and from his shoulders, from his body, they can smell his fragrance. And then they go and they quickly get dressed. But and Krishna is saying, the fruit of your puja will be manifest very shortly. Very shortly, you will become like my wives, which is what the purpose of your brat was to attain. I will become like your husband. Krishna has already become, in the heart of any Indian girl, a man who sees her completely naked. That's her husband. That's only her husband will see her like that. So in the hearts of the young gopis, Krishna is already their husband. They already feel thrilled at the success of their brat, that they've actually made Krishna their husband in a very real sense. For these young gopis, they feel absolutely that now Krishna is genuinely our husband. So they become very ecstatic about that. And then they take their cloths and so on. And then Krishna, he goes off with the cowherd boys, and the young girls, they go home singing very, very loudly. They're in complete ecstasy, because this is the success of their brat. And it's described on the very last day of their brat that the elder gopis, Radhika, Lalita, Vishaka, they actually come and they give their benedictions to these young gopis also. So this is a very, very sensitive, beautiful pastime, and incredibly sweet, because the girls are so young. So they don't even know what it is to have a relationship with a man. They're in that absolute innocence of innocence, and they perform their whole brat with that innocent, absolute innocent mood. And Krishna, he was reciprocating with their innocence in such a sweet, playful, gentle way. And the result was that the young girls were completely satisfied, totally satisfied. So this pastime is very sacred and needs to be understood in its correct way, because if it's taken with all material attachments, then it's completely, a strange sort of pastime. But it has nothing to do whatsoever with this material world. So this pastime takes place at Cira-ghata, and then just before Cira-ghata, maybe 1 kilometer before, is Ram Ghat. And Ram Ghat is that celebrated, beautiful ghat. When we go to Ram Ghat, there's a huge kadamba tree right in the center. Many of you will have seen a picture of my Gurudev sitting under there. It's a famous picture. And it's a very wonderful atmosphere. We go there in the early morning hours, usually when the sun's just starting to rise. There's often a mist around and very beautiful trees, and the quietude is very beautiful, just punctuated by beautiful birds, etc., singing. And again, it's an intoxicatingly spiritual atmosphere there, just very, very powerful. All of this part of Vrindavan, because it's not so populated as the other parts of Vrindavan. It's much quieter, much more isolated. So we come here in the early hours, and my Gurudev would explain how Krishna and Balaram, they're in Dwarka. And Balaram is always feeling sympathy for the separation moods of the Brijbasis. He knows in his heart how much the Brijbasis love Krishna. They also love Balaram. And he knows the extent and degree of their desperate separation that they're suffering. At this time, their separation has been going on for about 50 years. Krishna leaves Vrindavan for 100 years. 100 years altogether. He's away from Vrindavan. And Baladev, he's speaking to Krishna, you should go. You have no heart. Why don't you go? Why don't you just go for a couple of days and pay a visit? And Krishna, he doesn't respond. He doesn't answer. And Balaram becomes very impatient with Krishna at this time. And Krishna says, oh, I will write a letter and Uddhav will send it. And Balaram says, what use will a letter do? They will just weep more if you send a letter. So Krishna, he can't actually share what's really in his heart. What is really in his heart, he knows exactly that if he goes there for 1 or 2 days, he can never leave again. He cannot leave again. The gopis would not be able to tolerate that fresh separation mood a second time. They can tolerate it once. But if he came for a few days and then left again they would have to go through that extreme initial separation stage, and they would not be able to bear it. Krishna knew that. My Gurudev used to describe it's like a frying pan. If you have a red hot tawa that you make the chapatis on, and you want to cool it down, if you just put some couple of bits of water on it, it just fizzes, and it won't cool the pot down at all, won't cool the tawa down at all. You have to put it, immerse it completely in water to totally soak it, to actually cool it down. In other words, the separation has to finish with continuous meeting. That's the only way. And Krishna knows this. Baladev is not aware of that same mood. Krishna knows because all the time in his heart, he's meeting Sri Radhika. He's meeting the gopis, this Mohan Akhya Mahabhav, this Modan. The meeting is Madan Akhya, and the separation is Mohan and Modan. These are the 2 stages of separation. And one is in Rudha, and one is in Adiruddha Mahabhav. These are extremely high states of separation. But when Radhika is in that highest stage of Modan Akhya Mahabhav, then Krishna also is realizing that she's in that stage in Dwarka. And Krishna also immediately goes into that high separation mood. Krishna never leaves Vrindavan for a moment. Vrindavanam prityaja mam ekam sharanam gatachati. That Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. And the queens of Dwarka, they describe how Krishna soaks his pillow every night, calling out the different names of the gopis, calling out even the names of Mother Yashoda, of Nanda Baba, even calling out the names of the cows. He's feeling separation from them, but he can't go back. Parityanaya sadhunam vinashaya tadustrikam. He's come to relieve Mother Earth of the burden of the warring armies. Kurukshetra hasn't happened yet. Kurukshetra happens about 70 years after Krishna has left. And after Krishna leaves, there's about another 30 years. And then he comes back and kills Dantavakra in Mathura, and then he goes back to Vrindavan. Then he takes all the residents with him back to Goloka Vrindavan. So this is the sequence. So he knows he can't go back early. And yet Baladev, he's not realizing the depth and extent of that separation mood that Krishna internally is carrying 24/7, every day. He's carrying this mood of separation because the gopis are there. So Baladev says, all right, I'll go. I'll go alone without you, and I'll pacify them. So Baladev, he comes, and he stays for about 2 months. And all the residents of Braj, the Brijbasis, are so happy to see Baladev, and they honor him greatly, and they pacify their separation a little bit. But the gopis, of course, their separation actually is increasing with Baladev Prabhu there. Baladev is described as like the moon, like Nityananda is the cooling moon. But Baladev, when he comes to Braj, the gopis, Krishna's gopis, because there's Krishna Priya gopis and there's Baladev Priya gopis. There's two camps of gopis. So Krishna's gopis don't find relief from seeing Baladev, except there is one time when Baladev, he engages in Ras Leela with all the gopis, with his own gopis and with the Krishna Priya gopis. And at this point, Baladev Prabhu, he never has a single cent of wanting to enjoy anything in this material world at all. Completely separate from this material world. His heart is totally immersed in serving his divine brother Krishna. He only has that mood. He's come to Braj to serve his brother. This is why he's come to Braj. He hasn't come for his own enjoyment, not even a particle. He's only come to serve Krishna. So when Baladev is dancing with all the gopis at Madhuvan, because we see the beautiful deity at Madhuvan, it's a Shyam Baladev, completely blackish, because Baladev is only thinking of Krishna, and he becomes that Shyam hue, that same Shyam hue that Krishna has, that blackish color. So the gopis, they're seeing him like Krishna, but he's not Krishna. So there's not that same conjugal intimacy, but there's some slight pacification. And then following this, Ram, he comes to this place of Ram Ghat, where we are now today. And here he dances with his own gopis. And this is his own Ras Leela, where he is dancing and giving pleasure to his own gopis. And at this, Rasa Leela includes many pastimes. It doesn't just mean dancing. It also means Jal Krida, playing in the Jamuna. It means the drinking pastimes of the honey mead. It means playing dice, etc. There are so many pastimes that make up the idea of the Ras Leela pastimes. So Baladev is with his own gopis now. And Varunadev, the goddess of the trees in Vrindavan, she comes with a beautiful pot of absolute divine nectar for Baladev and his gopis to drink. And this beverage, of course, is very intoxicating. But all his gopis and Baladev Prabhu himself, they all take this beautiful, intoxicating beverage made from the honey, the sweetness from the trees and bushes, etc. So then Baladev becomes somewhat intoxicated, and then he feels, now I'm thirsty. Now I want to bathe and drink Jamuna water. But Jamuna is a little bit far away. So he calls Jamuna, come, come, come. Jamuna thinks, oh, he's intoxicated, I'm not going to come. She doesn't come. So Baladev, he calls her 3 or 4 times, and then he becomes very angry with her and says, oh, you won't come to me? I will drag you to me. And he takes his plow out and he plunges it in the ground and he starts to drag Jamuna Devi towards him. And we can see today at this place of Ram Ghat, just around the corner from where we're talking, we come out of this little compound, and just around the corner on the bank of the Jamuna are these huge grooves which are still there, cut by Baladev's plow. And he starts to drag Jamuna Devi. And as soon as Jamuna Devi realizes his potency, then immediately she comes with folded hands. And the whole Jamuna River comes very close to this area. But Baladev has to scar the earth with his plow to drag her. Now, one important thing is to appreciate that my Gurudev explains very clearly is that Jamuna Devi, we know, is the manifestation of Vishaka Devi. How can Baladev drag Vishaka in this way? And my Gurudev says, no, this is not Vishaka at this point in the river. At this point in the river, this is Kalindi Devi. This is the Dwarka aspect of Jamuna Devi. Vishaka is further south, and Jamuna is further north. So this aspect of Jamuna Devi is not Vishaka at this point. It's actually Kalindi Devi. So he's bringing this more Aishwarya mood of the Jamuna to him, but not Vishaka Devi. He could not have that same pastime with Vishaka Devi. So Jamuna Devi comes, and Baladev, he's been dancing very beautifully with all his gopis. And Baladev, he stays trying to pacify the gopis for 2 months in Braj. So today we come to this beautiful environment of Ram Ghat. It's a really, really extraordinary place. So we should understand that Baladev dances with both sets of gopis. He dances with the Krishna Priya gopis and he dances with the Baladev Priya gopis. With the Baladev Priya gopis, it's specifically at Ram Ghat. But in Madhuvan, it's with the Priya, Krishna Priya gopis also. And that's when he goes this Shyam color. So this is how Baladev tries to pacify them. But the gopis' separation mood is so extreme and it's so high. All of the Braj Leelas, all of the Braj pastimes, they all revolve around this dynamic of meeting and separation, meeting and separation. Within the 24 hours of the day of Braj, every day, there's 12 hours meeting and there's 12 hours separation. It's practically like half and half exactly. In pastimes like Nishanta Lila, it's full meeting. Meeting means when there's no elders around, when it's only Krishna and the gopis. This is full Milan, this is full Sambhog. But when there's elders around, because sometimes Krishna will meet Radhika on the street, and that's included still in the separation aspect, but there's no real conjugal connection because they have elders around and so on. So in Nishanta Lila, that's like practically 5 hours when it's full union, full sambhog. And because the Ratri Lila is just prior to that, that's also, Nishanta Lila is about 2.5 hours. And Ratri Lila is about 5 hours. So that's 7.5 hours. And then there's the 5 hours in Radhakund at midday. This makes approximately 12 hours of the day. And only these 3 times, these 3 yamas of the day, the Madhyana Lila, the Ratri Lila, and the Shanta Lila. This is when they're together completely. But then in the Prata Lila, Krishna's with the cowherd Sakas, he's with Mother Yashoda Nanda Baba, the Prata, the Purvana, and the Apuvana Lila. These are all much shorter time frames of the day. Then the Syayam Lila, when he comes back into Braj at Goduli. Then the Pradosh Lila at the end, before the Ratri Lila. These are just 2.5 hour sections. But if you calculate, you can see that there's 12 hours of meeting and 12 hours of separation. Without the separation, the meeting is not going to be successful. There must be separation to have high experience of, or sense, not sensation is the wrong word because it's a material, but high, high what? Experience. Yes, of the meeting must be there. It's like if you like sweet rice, but you have sweet rice all the time, you're going to get sick of it. It's like in Swakia Ras. If you're there all the time with the same personality, the sweetness isn't always there. It's often down, it goes down. But if it's Parakia, and you've got this separation built into Parakia, because it must be built into it. You can't be always together with a Parakia lover. It doesn't have the dynamic. So see the way it's kind of like, we can almost say structured, to give Radha and Krishna the greatest pleasure. This is the dynamic of it. So this separation, when Krishna is in Dwarka, this is always difficult to understand. For 100 years he stays away. Nevertheless, the gopis, they demonstrate to the world the extent and degree of their affection and attraction, because Radhika never wavers. What's that verse? Sarvata dvamsa rahitam yadyapi dvamsa karine yadbhava yandanam sa prem parikirtira. That Rupa Goswami, he writes this verse about prem. Prem is like when 2 lovers, they're together, but they cannot be separated, even if there's many circumstances to create separation. Still, they will never separate. So Radha and Krishna, their hearts never separate. We can imagine Krishna, he's gone to Dwarka. He's not only married 1 or 2 queens, he's married 16,000 queens. And he's not only had a few children, he's had thousands of children. And he's got grandchildren. But does Radhika's love waver even a fraction? Not even a particle goes down. So this is the proof of the transcendental connection between Radha and Krishna. It never wavers. It's like the transcendental prem between Chandravali also. Chandravali knows that Krishna loves her more. He knows, that Krishna loves Radhika more than her. But her prem for Krishna never diminishes. It stays at the same pitch always. So to try to understand, because we talk a lot about prem, but what is prem? What is the prem that Baladev is exhibiting at Ram Ghat? What is the nature of that? We should question and analyze and try to appreciate, because then we will come deeper into the Leelas. Every time we ask a question about these things, a fresher and newer answer will actually be granted to us by Krishna's mercy. This is the dynamic of our spiritual life. As we hear new different topics and revelations, then we expand our appreciation and the reality of the Vrindavan pastimes until we become so immersed in these Vrindavan pastimes. That's our objective, that's our goal. This is the purpose of this Kartik Parikrama, is to become immersed in these loving pastimes between Radha and Krishna, even between Krishna and the Sakhas, etc. Krishna and Mother Yashoda in Damodar Astakam we sing every day. These moods of tremendous affection that are completely beyond anything material. So then we leave Ram Ghat and we've been to Cira-ghata, and now we come to Vatsavan. Vatsavan is an extraordinary place, and it's an extraordinary pastime that takes place here. We actually walk for about almost 2 kilometers through the open fields to reach. Vatsavan is a very isolated, lonely place, but it's the same place where Krishna came with his calves and suckers after Aghasura had been killed. Aghasura is the brother of Putana, and he's the brother of Bakasura. They were a healthy family of Paka demons. Bakasura, Aghasura, and Putana, all three of them. Can you imagine? Anyway, they were all three incredibly powerful demons. So when Krishna entered the throat of Aghasura and took his life and brought all the cowherd boys back out of the stomach of Aghasura, we remember that all the devas began to throw flowers, and they all began to chant loudly the glorious heroic deeds of Krishna. And Lord Brahma, he was hearing that, and he came to see this, what was happening. And he witnessed directly himself that Aghasura, his illuminated spirit soul, when it popped out of his head, when Krishna blocked the channel of his breathing and it had to pop out of his head, it just remained in the air until Krishna comes out of Aghasura. And when Krishna comes out of Aghasura, then that spirit soul merges into the lotus foot of Sri Krishna. So this was the destination of Aghasura. This was remarkable. And Lord Brahma, he's witnessing this. And he thinks, who is this boy? How come that spirit soul went into that foot of that boy? Does that boy have more mystic power than me? Who does that boy think he is? Is he more? This, understand, is the pushing of Yogamaya to convince Lord Brahma to perform this next pastime. Because Krishna wanted this pastime. This pastime is so excellent. There are so many beautiful aspects in this pastime when Lord Brahma, he steals the calves and the cowherd. So after Aghasura has been defeated, I'll just take a tablet. Excuse me. After Aghasura has been defeated, then they come to this place beside the Jamuna again. It's a very pristine, white, sandy bank of the Jamuna. The Jamuna regularly floods, so it's always cleaning the sandbanks, etc. So it's a very, very beautiful spot. and it's full of shady, beautiful, heavy, shady trees. So Krishna becomes very attracted to this place and encourages all the boys. Now, after you've been in the belly of Aghasura, now we should all take bath in the Jamuna here and clean all those contaminating acids and fluids from our bodies. So they do like that. They begin to water sport in the Jamuna then. Then they come out after their sports and they sit down on the beautiful sandy bank. And they've all brought their picnics with them, their tiffins with them. And it's described that some put them on a rock, some put them on a leaf, some put them on bark of trees, etc. And they all begin to eat their tiffins. But in Bharatvarsh anyway, you will see always when Indians eat, they naturally share what they've got. Many times I would go for printing books, etc., and I'd have to sit with the working staff in their dining hall, and they would all just be picking in each other's tiffin box. This is the mood, the culture of India. So everyone is trying to offer Krishna some of what their mother has made, and Krishna's accepting so many things. Krishna is described as Yagya book. He only takes what's taken from the yagya. So the demigods, they're just amazed. How come Krishna, he's eating someone's half-eaten pakora? Because one boy will eat a pakora and think, oh, this is wonderful. Krishna, you must taste this. It's so nice. And giving it directly to, and Krishna is taking it very happily and tasting it like that. So this is the sweetness of Madhurya with Krishna. So Krishna's performing these, and it's described that by his exceptional potency, he's able to sit in the midst of all the cowherd boys, and yet they all think that he's just facing them. He's only looking at them. Actually, he's surrounded by millions of boys, but all the boys, every single boy, thinks that Krishna is just in front of me, and Krishna is just reciprocating with me. This is what all the boys are feeling. So we must appreciate this. There's not some boy, sitting on the background wondering, why can't I get it on the inner circle? They're all on the inner circle, all of them. So it's a very joyous occasion. It's a very festive occasion. And some of the boys, they're stealing other boys' pakoras, and they're taking out the ingredients and putting flowers in there instead. So they become very bitter when they eat them. Then they're giving them back to them, especially Madhumangal. They always, have fun poking him. And meanwhile, all this fun is going on, and the calves, they've been tethered just close by because there's lots of green grass there, so they're not really worried. Then all of a sudden, some of the cowherd boys, they realize, oh, the calves, they're not here anymore because Lord Brahma, he's come and he's kidnapped this group of calves. He's decided to kidnap them. So Krishna, he tells all the cow, don't disturb your picnic. This is such a nice mood here we're having. I'm just going to, I'll just go and quickly bring the calves back. You all stay right here and I'll go and get them. So he has a little morsel of flat rice in one hand and some, achar in the other hand. And he starts wandering around looking everywhere for the calves. He goes in the valleys, he goes in the forest, he can't find them. And he comes back to tell the cowherd, and the cowherd boys have all gone then. They've all disappeared too. So now the calves have gone and the cowherd boys have gone. So Krishna acts for a moment like he's bewildered, just to appease some of the demigods, make him look like and then he realizes immediately this is the work of Lord Brahma. But Krishna has already manifested this pastime. He's already put the cowherd boys, by Yogamaya's arrangement, to sleep in Yoga Nidra. And he's already put the young calves there too. Brahma, Lord Brahma, he's put the calves, and the boys in a huge cave. He's put them to sleep and he's put them in a huge cave. So now there's like two sets. There's one by Yoga Nidra and one by Lord Brahma. And then Krishna, he realizes what's going on because it originally was Krishna's desire, and he immediately rushes to Brahmaloka and he impersonates Lord Brahma, and he sits on Lord Brahma's throne and he tells all the servants of Lord Brahma, there's an imposter around here, don't let him in the gate, he'll come back here and he'll want to get in. Because Krishna knows if Lord Brahma stays here for longer than a moment, it's not going to be conducive. It's going to be too long time frame in between. So when Lord Brahma gets to the gates of his own place, he's told, out, you're an imposter. Lord Brahma's already here. What are you doing? And then Lord Brahma realizes, oh, who is this young boy? Maybe he impersonated me and came into my planet here. And, he's impersonating me. So then this is when Lord Brahma becomes anxious. And he comes straight back to the earth. But a whole year has passed. And when Krishna, he sees all the calves have gone, all the boys have gone, he immediately manifests another group of boys and another group of calves. So now there's three sets. The set that Brahma took, the set that Krishna's already put in Yogamaya, and the ones that he's manifesting from his form here. So with this third set, it's described in detail in the 13th chapter of the 10th canto, that every particle of each boy's characteristic is replicated. Everything about each boy is completely doubled. So when Krishna goes back into Braj with all the calves and all the cowherd boys, unbeknownst to Brahma, because Brahma's gone to Satyaloka, he doesn't see this part. Krishna enters into Braj, and generally all the mothers, they rush to Krishna first. They want to touch Krishna when Krishna comes at the time of Goduli, when he comes with the dust on his body from the cows into the village of Nandagaon. And the whole village has been suffering separation, waiting for him to come back. But when he comes back, all the mothers, they run straight to Krishna first. But this time, on this day, they don't. They run to their own sons. And they just embrace their own sons. And then they anxiously take their own sons home. They bathe them beautifully. They put oil on their bodies. And then they give them milk, it's described. It's described that Krishna actually, at this age, he's only 5 years old. After a year has passed of this pastime, then he comes to the Poganda age of 6 years old. So he's still taking his mother's milk at this age. So he takes the milk of thousands and thousands of elderly gopis in the form of these other cowherd boys. And this is, Krishna can't get enough of the Brijbasi's love. He's so anxious for it. So he takes all that mother's milk and takes all their affectionate doting over him. They're cleansing him, they're kissing him, they're massaging him, they're putting sandal on him, and they're dressing him beautifully. And Krishna is relishing, because all these mothers were thinking, oh, Mother Yashoda, she's so fortunate. She has all this opportunity to be most affectionate to Krishna. Why can't we ever have that same opportunity like this? They were lamenting like that. But now all those thoughts have sort of gone away from their minds, and they're completely satisfied in this saturation of affection that they can pour onto their own children. And this whole pastime goes on for exactly 12 months. Every single day when Krishna comes home, all the mothers, they take their divine sons into their home. And the calves, Krishna, he enters into the cow pens of all the calves. And the mothers had also been wanting Krishna to become their calf. And it's described the mothers, cows, are practically trying to swallow their calves by licking them so much. They're so much attracted to their calves now. All of a sudden, their attraction has just built. This is Braj. This is Braj. It's all about loving pastimes. All these pastimes are designed to churn the affectionate hearts of the Brijbasis with Krishna. Every single pastime is designed for that purpose. So the cows become completely satisfied with having this opportunity to serve their young calves. And the calves, of course, are drinking the milk from all the mothers. Krishna has unlimited capacity for milk, and he drinks all the milk of all the cows in the calves' bodies. So Krishna becomes satisfied, and he knows this is nourishing and satisfying all the Brijbasis. And then, under Yogamaya, Purnamasi Devi is Yogamaya, so Yogamaya knows what's actually going on. So she declares after about 6 months, that this year that this pastime is taking place is the most auspicious year for all marriages to be cemented, to be betrothed. All the young men have to become betrothed to all the young women of Braj. So all the marriages take place. Krishna is all those cowherd boys. So he's marrying all these gopis directly. He's becoming betrothed to all the gopis in this year. So this pastime really uh, facilitates anybody who might criticize Krishna as taking these girlfriends later on. They're actually his original wives because he does marry them. He marries all of them. And now, after this 12 months, because on this particular day, when Lord Brahma stole the calves and the cowherd boys, Lord Balaram wasn't present. Just like he wasn't there at the chastisement of Kaliya Krida, he wasn't there then, and he wasn't there during this pastime. Krishna arranged it like that, or Yogamaya arranged it like that. So Balaram wasn't there. So one day, right at the very end of this pastime, Balaram and Krishna and all the sakhas and these 1-year-old calves are there grazing, and on the hill of Govardhan, which is overlooking this valley where the cowherd boys are, the elder mothers, they see their 1-year-old calves. They've already got fresh calves that are close by, but these calves are Krishna. These calves are manifestations of, and they see them from the top of Govardhan Hill, and they immediately race down this very steep bankment of Govardhan Hill to be with their calves. And the cowherd men become very angry. These cows, they're so recklessly running down, they could break their legs. They become very unhappy. Why have they broken loose from us? Why are they doing this? Because it's a very steep, stony, rugged, and the cows, they come racing down the side of the hill. And Balaram, he's watching this, and everyone is wondering why the cows, and as soon as the cows come down, they don't run to their new calves that are also there with Krishna at this time. They run to their 1-year-old calves, and they start licking them so much with such fondness. And the cowherd men, they come down in a very angry mood, because these cows, they've broken free from their containment of looking after them, and they're very disturbed and unhappy. And as soon as they see their sons, all their anger just dissipates, just goes away completely. And they take their sons, they sit them on their lap, they smell their heads, they hold them, they fondle them, they kiss them, and they're very happy to be with their sons again. And Balaram, he's watching this thinking, what's going on here? Why did those older mother cows break free initially, and they didn't go to their youngest calves, they went to these 1-year-old calves? And the cowherd men came down so angry. What happened to their anger? Why did they suddenly take such attraction to their sons? And then he looks to Krishna, and he's thinking, is this some illusory potency created by some sages, or is it some sort of demonic influence that I'm perceiving, or is it the work of Yogamaya? He's not sure what's happening here. So Baladev, he uses all of his omniscience to try and understand what's happening, but he can't. He can't understand what's happening here. He knows something very incredible is happening, and he can't understand. So he looks to his younger brother, and his younger brother gives him an eye and reveals part of the Leela. A part of the veil starts to slip, and then Baladev begins to understand what's actually happening. And then again, Krishna gives him more vision. And then Baladev, he sees all of the cowherd boys are Vishnu Murtis. They're all direct expansions from Krishna. And Baladev is like shocked, absolutely shocked. And he turns to his brother and he says, I thought these were all Nitya Siddha Parikas of yours. I thought these were all your eternal associates from so many lifetimes. And now I'm seeing they're all your personal expansions. What's happening here? And then Krishna, just in a moment, just by his omniscience, is able to convey the entire incident to Lord Brahma, to Baladev, about Lord Brahma. This is Lord Brahma's design. He indicates to Baladev that he wanted to test my mystic opulence. So this is part of that Leela. And then Balaram becomes very unhappy. He says, well, why didn't you tell me about this? Krishna couldn't have told Baladev because he knows that Baladev would have told Mother Yashoda straight away. Because Baladev told on him when he ate the dirt. And Baladev would, just report to Mother Yashoda anything. They had that type of relationship. So Baladev couldn't be in cahoots with this whole incident. So Krishna says to Baladev at that time, I couldn't tell you because I knew how much you had missed Sridham. Sridham Saka, your best friend. If you knew it wasn't really him for the whole year, your separation would be too high from him. You would miss him too much. So Krishna explains like that. This is why he doesn't explain to Baladev. But actually it's described by Jiva Goswami and Gopal Champu. But Baladev becomes so unhappy with not being told, he doesn't come out cow grazing for the next 5 days. He's in a bit of a sulk, and he doesn't come out cow grazing and when he does come out, he kills Pralambasura. That's the day he comes out. So get his confidence back a bit. But that's how it is actually written by Jiva Goswami. But now the year is up, and Lord Brahma, he comes back, and he's astonished, of course, because he's seeing what happened to his mystic potency. And 2 of his heads look in the cave, and he sees the cowherd boys and the calves that he stole in the cave. And he looks with his other 2 heads to see Krishna, and he sees Krishna with the cowherd boys and the calves. And he's wondering what is going, he has no idea what's going on. And then gradually, Krishna, he lifts that veil from Lord Brahma's vision, from his eyes, so that he can see that all of these are 4-armed Vishnu forms. They're all direct expansions from Krishna. And I want to read this description because it's really remarkable what Lord Brahma sees. He sees their blue complexions and their yellow garments of each individual person. All the boys' chests were marked with the Shrivats, the line of Lakshmi. They all had beautiful armbands, and the Kastuba manis were all on their necks, and jewels were around their throats, and bracelets and ankle bells. They were all holding conch, mace, disc, and lotus. He let Lord Brahma have darshan of all these. These are, each individual cowherd boy was a total manifestation of Vishnu, each one, who is the Ishtadev of Lord Brahma. Garbhodakshai Vishnu is the Ishtadev of Lord Brahma. So he's seeing each of these cowherd boys as even more than his Ishtadev. And then he sees their helmets, he sees their earrings and garlands, he sees their sacred belts, all extremely beautiful. Every part of the body was beautifully decorated. Many devotees were worshipping them with tulsi. Can you imagine the scene of thousands and thousands of cowherd boys, all as Vishnu manifestations, all being worshipped by so many devotees? And Tulsi Devi also. These forms had pure smiles, like increasing lights of the moon. The increasing light of the moon was the beautiful smile on each of these Vishnu Murti's faces. All creatures, from the insects to the highest lords like Brahma, were worshipping those Vishnu Murti forms. Thousands of living entities were worshipping each individual form. I wanted to read it because it's such a graphic picture. Each blade of grass was worshipping, and other Lord Brahmas were worshipping these Vishnu forms. They were surrounded by opulences, anima siddha, mystic potencies, and the 24 elements and the Mahatattva were all worshipping every single Vishnu form. Then Lord Brahma saw Kala, time, was also personified, worshipping each form. He saw Svabhav, the own nature of each individual was worshipping Lord Brahma. He saw the sanskars, the reformations, they also were personified, worshipping each individual Vishnu. He saw calm, desire, was also worshipping each individual murti. He saw karma, the fruitive activities. He saw the gunas. They'd all taken forms and were all worshipping the Lord. All had eternal, unlimited forms, full of knowledge, bliss, and beyond time. Lord Brahma, seeing all this, his 11 senses became jolted. This is how it's described. They became jolted. He had never witnessed anything as inconceivable as this. These hundreds of thousands of Vishnu Murtis all being worshipped by millions, and his whole senses just went into collapse practically. And it's described at that time that he climbs down from his swan carrier, because the Devas, they never touch the earth. They just walk above the earth. But he climbs down from his swan carrier and he stands on the earth, and with his full prostrated body, he offers full sastang dandavats to Krishna. And all his helmets are touching Krishna's toes. And Lord Brahma, he can't speak. He's completely choked, and tears are just flowing from his eyes in ecstasy at this apparition that he's just seen in front of him. He's completely like shocked, because Lord Brahma has a lot of mystic potency. We understand from each part of his body, he just creates universes, etc. He creates these different planetary systems and populates them and so on. So what to speak of his mystic potency? But when he's seeing Krishna's potency, he's completely dumbfounded, totally dumbfounded. So he's defeated by Krishna's mystic opulence. And then he sees, and then Krishna allows him to see that for some time, and then he stops that vision, and then he lets Lord Brahma just see this little boy sitting in Vrindavan looking for his calves and cowherd boys in like a bewildered form. Then Lord Brahma begins beautiful prayers. And the whole of the next chapter, 14, is full of these prayers that Lord Brahma is offering Krishna at that time. But then Krishna, he cautions Lord Brahma, because this is actually an offense that Lord Brahma has made. He's tested the power of Krishna. He wanted to test his mystic ability against his own mystic opulence. And as I said, Lord Brahma has so much mystic opulence. Just from a thought, Lord Brahma will create a planet. Like that, we read in the 5th canto, we read in the 3rd and 4th cantos also, many manifestations of Lord Brahma. So then Krishna, he again breaks that yoga nidra of the original cowherd boys and cows, and they all manifest again. And the illusory ones that Lord Brahma created, because he stole illusory, they actually go back to illusion. So everything becomes reconciled and back to its original form. And then when Krishna is described now, when Krishna goes back to Vrindavan on this day, because when he came in from the forest with the replicas of the cowherd boys, when they were all Vishnu Murti forms, all the mothers were so happy to have Krishna as their children. But this time they go, and they never spoke about Aghasura at that time. Krishna never spoke the pastime about Aghasura, because the cowherd boys, the replicas, wouldn't have known about it because they weren't part of that. But when the real cowherd boys come back, then they come back into the village and they proclaim about the glories of Krishna killing Aghasura. And that whole skeleton of Aghasura has remained fresh for a year because Krishna touched it. So it's absolutely fresh. And then it's described that it's a complete festival. It's a complete occasion now. Krishna just makes it a huge festival when he comes back with the original boys. And of course, the mothers that time, they come to touch Krishna again. But he just makes the whole atmosphere more festive than it's ever been. The Brijbasis don't know why it's more festival, but it's actually the young cowherd boys, they've come back again after a whole year. They don't even know they've really been away. But Krishna creates a really festive atmosphere at that time to sort of cover the feeling of separation from Krishna as having him as their son for a whole year. So it's a very very special pastime that we come to at Vatsavan, and we hear this pastime every year. And if you read it in the 10th canto, it's chapter 13 of the 10th canto, and the prayers, beautiful prayers by Lord Brahma, afterwards concluding this, his honor towards Krishna, and his always feeling that he has committed an aparad, which he has. So this is the pastime at Vatsavan that we hear. Very, very beautiful. So now we get on our buses again and we go back to Vrindavan, but on the way back, we stop at one more place called Garuda-Govinda, or Govinda-Garud. And this is only a small stop, and it's right on the highway before Chatikara. And this is a place during Krishna's pastimes when Krishna was acting out Ram Lila. And that son of Ravana, Meghanath, he had bound Lakshman, or bound Ram in these serpents. Ram was bound by these serpents. Another time he kills Lakshman, actually with his weapon. But this time he's bound Ram himself with all the serpents. So the boys, they call Garuda to, in their minds, to chase away the snakes. And Sridham, Saka, he takes the form of Garuda at this place, and he carries Krishna on his back. Krishna says, I'm Narayan, and you're my carrier, Garuda. And Sridham, he runs around, because Sridham is very big. Sridham, the brother of Radharani, he's very strong. He drinks a lot of milk, so he's very strong. So he carries Krishna around as if he's Garuda. So this place is celebrated as Garuda-Govinda. It's Govinda and Garuda together. So we stop here and we hear this beautiful pastime. And there's other pastimes here, playful Saka pastimes, cowherd boy pastimes. But generally this is on the tail end of our parikrama, because we've been a long way bouncing around through the dust on our buses, and we come to this area. It's usually about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're just anxious to actually get back to Vrindavan, which is very close by. Vrindavan is about 6 kilometers from Garuda-Govinda. So then we just go back to Gopinath Bhavan. So that's the end of our parikrama today. So Vraja-mandala Parikrama ki jai, Khelanvana ki jai, Viharavana ki jai, Cira-ghata ki jai, Ram Ghat ki jai, Vatsavan ki jai, Tapovan ki jai. I think that's everything. Yes, that's all the pastimes. So many pastimes today. I hope it wasn't too many for you to digest. But if we go regularly on parikrama and become familiar with these pastimes, and especially the geography, as I'm always trying to encourage us to become aware of, where we went traveling and so on, what was the journey, how was it arranged, then it can sit more comfortably in our minds and hearts. That pastime of Vatsavan, one thing comes to mind, one description, that when they were sitting on the bank of the Jamuna after bathing, it's described that they felt like they were sitting on the lap of their mother. That's how comfortable they felt sitting on the bank of the Jamuna. That's how the acharyas have described it when Lord Brahma stole. So many descriptions. I've only said a little bit, really and truly. There's so much more, because if you read in Ananda Vrindavan Champu, in particular, the pastime of Krishna stealing the gopis' clothes, the young gopis' clothes. This, I've never read anywhere as beautiful a description by Kavi Kanpur as this in Ananda Vrindavan Champu, of the gopis having their clothes stolen by Krishna. That's he goes into real detail on that in that pastime. And the pastime of Vatsavan, etc., from the 10th canto, and from Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu. These and also, of course, in Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's Krishna book, all of these pastimes are there. That's the 10th canto. So we should become familiar with all these pastimes. So Vraja-mandala ki jai, Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Golda Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. So now we'll sing our Damodarastakam. Thank you all so much for your attention, and we'll sing our Damodarastakam.
Namamishwaram Satchidanandarupam Lasat Kundalam Gokule Vraja-manam Yashodabiyalukalatamanam Param Vishtam Atyanta Doduchadogya Rudam Tamohunetra Yugmam Vijantam Karam Bhojayugmena Shatankanetram Muhoshvasakam Patrilehankakanta Sita Krivadamodaram Digrisalibhya Ananda Kunde Swagoshami Majantam Akyarpayantam Tadiyeshitadeshu Bhakta Jitadvam Puna Prematastam Satavriti Vande Param Deva Moksham Na Mokshavadimba Dakam Yamrineham Varishadapiya Idam Deva Punata Gopala Balam Sada Vimanasya Virasam Kimanyam Idam Kambojam Avyaktanilay Yasam Kundalin Sita Rakshasa Gopya Muhostamitam Bimba Rakadaram Me Manasavirasyam Anandakshalavyaye Namo Deva Damodar Ananta Vishnu Prasida Prabhu Dukha Jaladimadram Kripadrishi Vrishyati Dinam Vatano Nunadeshamam Yajam Lakshadesya Nirvajavadya Mutyai Vayadvat Maya Mojito Bhakti Bhajokitoga Gata Prema Bhaktim Swakame Prayacha Namaksarahesti Damodareha Namaskudamne Surabhipyamne Spuriyadayata Vishwasyadamne Namo Radhikayai Tvadiya Priyayai Namo Rasalilaya Devaya Tudyam Namo Radhikayai Tvadiya Priyayai Namo Rasalilaya Devaya Tudyam Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Damodara, Jaya Damodara, Jaya Damodara, Jaya Damodara, Jaya Radha Damodara, Damodara Radhe, Jaya Radha Damodara, Radha Damodara Radhe, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya 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 Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada,
Oh Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Sai Gaur Hari Bo,
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol.
Sai Gaur Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Hari Bo, Sai Gaur Hari Bo,
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Arupanuga Guru Varga ki jai, Parikrama 2023 ki jai. Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. I'll just quickly read out. Tomorrow is where are we? Oh, Bailvan Darshan. Tomorrow is Bailvan Darshan, which is a walk through the beautiful sand of Vrindavan. On the other side of Vrindavan, we cross over Vrindavan by boat, and then we walk for about 2 kilometers to the little village of Bailvan. And then we hear the glories of Lakshmi Dev and how she's still desperately meditating to come into the Ras Leela. She's not as lucky as we are. So that's what we're going to hear tomorrow. And then the day after that, on Thursday, is Ekadashi, Parikrama. And then the next day is Harigata and rest. So all 3 of these days, I hope that we can open up our Damodarastakam reading, and we'll discuss that tomorrow, because tomorrow won't be so long. We'll just have maybe 40 minutes or so on Bailvan, and then we'll discuss Damodarastakam. Ananta Koda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Gold Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhu Bevacha, Patitanam Pavnivyo Vaishnavevi Namaha.